What's going on, guys? Thanks for joining us on the KBR Sports Podcast. You already know the best sports podcast of your 24-hour day. I appreciate you all for tuning into today's episode of the podcast. Of course, if you're not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you catch your podcast, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or iHeartRadio, as well as you can catch this episode of the podcast on YouTube. We got an exciting episode for you all today, but make sure you guys go ahead and hit that subscribe and follow button, just depending on wherever you're listening to. And in terms of today's podcast, guys, we have some good topics to talk about. A lot of you sports parents, a lot of you guys that need a lift, a motivational lift, guess what? You're getting it in today's episode, okay? I'm very excited for today's guest. Some of you may know his son, Marvin Williams Jr. He played in the NBA and he played for 15 seasons. And Marvin is coming on today's podcast. He's an author. He has a book called Secondary Break, an NBA Dad's Story. He's had coaching experience from coaching girls as well as coaching boys teams in AAU as well, and has had success doing that. Guys, let's give a round of applause for Marvin. Marvin, how are you doing today?
Hey man, I'm doing wonderful, man. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, man. When I saw the whole resume, I was like, oh man, I gotta get him on, man. Especially when I saw the prospect of your book, I was so interested. For people that don't know who you are, do you mind giving them some of your background just so people know who they're listening to today?
Yeah, I'm the father of former NBA basketball player Marvin Williams Jr. I grew up in a little town called Wallace, North Carolina. I grew up when I was a kid, probably from 13 to about 19, playing against Michael Jordan, Kenny Gaddison, and Clyde Simmons, who went on to have a great NFL career. I spent my whole life with basketball. I served in the United States Navy for 6 years, was allowed to get out after 3 because of my basketball skills. I had a couple of colleges come after when they see me play. So, they offered me some scholarships. I got out the military, tried out for some pro teams, didn't make the cut. So I started coaching. Girls. I ended up coaching girls for about 25 years. Wow. And then my son, he started watching me coach girls and wanted me to start doing individual work with him when he's probably about 5 or 6 years old. And so we continued that tradition till he left high school. He was one of the top 5 players in McDonald's All-American class of 2005.
Wow.
He went to University of North Carolina, full ride scholarship. And then he got drafted number 2 in the NBA draft. And I coached him during this whole time while he was going through in college and as well as when he was in the NBA till he finished his career. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what's it like? Like, what is in terms of the journey of coaching your own son and going through the process of when he's watching you coach other people, what was that transition like to eventually going from coaching other people's kids to then coaching your own?
I was really hard. Marv came up to me and asked me one day, he said, "Dad, would you coach me?" And that by itself made me feel like I was just really happy that my son had asked me to do it. Yeah. And so I took that as a blessing and I said, yeah, I'll give you everything I got, teach everything I got. Yeah. My thought was he'd be a good, even if he was just a good high school kid, a good player in high school, I'd have been happy with that. And so he really worked hard and listened and did all I asked him to do.
So how hard is it because you know how hard is it? I don't know how, because, so many sports parents, man, everybody thinks their kid's going to be the next star, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you spot that when you're in your own kid without having the biases, because so many people always think that it's like parents watch their kids play with rose tinted glasses on. And when you're watching your kid could have 10 turnovers, and then parents think their kid is Michael Jordan. Yeah. So how does that work?
My goal with Marvin was just to get him. My goal was to get him through high school safely and become me and his mom. Our goal really was for him to go to college. Yeah. And whether basketball played a role in it or not, I never really started coaching him with the idea, I want him to go to college. But part of me wanted him to go to college and play basketball. And I really love the University of North Carolina because, like I said, my guys, Michael Jordan and all those guys, I grew up around those guys. Yeah. And so once he got of age and he started getting really, really good, I started thinking about him going to college. But it wasn't one of them. And I agree with what you were saying earlier. A lot of parents, they think as soon as they kid pick up a basketball, they're gonna be a star. I mean, this is a long road from 5 years old to 17. Yeah. And a lot of stuff happened with kids during those times. You know what I mean? So I think I just wanted to enjoy, even when he was in the NBA, all I cared about was just watching him, being thankful and enjoy watching him play. Even when he was in high school, I used to just love watching him play.
That's
It was just
awesome.
exciting to have him out there playing.
So then what is it like in terms of when he saw you coaching other people and you and yourself, because naturally I just imagine that he took on the love that you had for the game and you kind of embedded that in him. But how did your love for the game start, and what's the background with you and basketball from when you were younger?
I was actually born in Brooklyn, New York in 1964. And I remember as a kid back then, you know, they had a whole bunch of racial stuff going on in New York with the riots and stuff. And so and then I had two parents who were alcoholics, and they were abusive alcoholics. And so one day my friend in New York, Montgomery, asked me, said, "Hey man, do you like basketball?" I said, "Yeah." So I went and watched for a couple of days, and then he said, "Man, my friend Tony can teach you." So Tony started teaching me, and I fell in love with the game right away. And then all I wanted to do was play basketball. And so when my mom and dad get to fighting and carrying on in the house, I just grab my ball and go down to the local parks or to my elementary school and play. And
Yeah.
so it was an easy sport because you don't need nobody to play basketball versus other sports like tennis. You got to have a partner, you know. So I love basketball for that one reason, that I can get my mind off of what's going on at home. And so that's how I fell in love with the game. It kind of saved my life.
That's wild, because it's funny because you hear so many people talk about, you hear even guys like LeBron James describe that being their background with basketball. Dwayne Wade even saying that basketball saved his life when he was growing up in Chicago. So that's pretty cool to hear that the game did that much for you. And then at what point, what was like the cross section in which you and Michael crossed paths and you playing against him and his brother as well?
So when I turned 13, my mom had parents down in a little town called Wallace, which is about 30 miles from Wilmington. So my parents moved us down there because my granddad was sick, and then he eventually passed away. And so I went down there. I started playing at the local, you know, parks and stuff. And then I ran into Kenny Gaddison. And so Kenny Gaddison, he was a real big time high school football player, but he loved basketball. So me and him became real good friends. And I was about 13, 14. And so then over time, like when I turned 15, I ran into Larry at the parks, and Larry Jordan, Michael Jordan brother. And then he would bring Mike down to the parks because their grandmother also lived in my hometown, Wallace. And so they would come in on a Saturday, and we hang out all day and play ball, hang out in the evenings. And then on Sunday, they would go to church with their grandparents, and then we all get together after church and play. And so we did this till we was high school. And then when Mike got really famous in high school, it got to the point where we couldn't even really use the whole court because there's so many people on the court watching them play.
Wow.
So and so
That's
it was
crazy.
we kept our friendship. I'm still friends with him to this day. He loved my son. He done a wonderful job with my son. Once he realized my son was in the league, him and his brother Larry, they made it their business to take care of him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they did a great job with him.
It's pretty cool because it feels like basketball is truly a fraternity when from the ground up. If you could expound upon that even more, because I don't think people realize how close knit, when people say like the NBA brotherhood is a thing, or even like I have my little brothers played in AAU. I played AAU when I was younger, and you play with the people you meet, you end up developing such close bonds with them. So what kind of network does that normally build, and what kind of bond does that build from the game of basketball?
It reminded me of being in the military. When I was in the Navy, we had that same kind of bond. And so, because you go through so much as players when you're playing on a team. You got the one common thing, the one goal in mind, and so that bonds you by itself. And then you have the love of basketball, and then once you be around somebody so much during a high school, college, or whatever season, it's like us against them. So you tend to unite with those guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And get to know them real good, and that builds a lifelong friendship. But basketball in the military will always be that bond. You'll have that glue.
Yeah. That's awesome. So then what is it like? Because I think it's so crazy that you see the humane side of Michael, right? Like I think the way people always describe, like you hear the myths, you hear the legends, you hear the stories and stuff like that. So what is it like knowing the human side of Michael, like the person, as opposed to the legend and the big icon person?
You know what? I get real defensive personally sometimes about it because people say bad stuff, and it bothers me because they don't know the real him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To me, he's still the same guy that I met when I was 13. So whenever Marvin used to play with Charlotte and he would come sit down, I'd go over there and sit and talk to him. I never seen Kenny Gaddis in the same way. He played in the league for 16 years. Those guys to me are just the same guys. And so the vibe I get from them versus the vibe an outsider will get from them is going to be totally different. So they're not going to let down their guard with some stranger as they will with you because they've been knowing you since you were child.
That's true.
So I get real defensive when I hear people say bad stuff about him. I'm not gonna kid.
It's understandable though. It's true. I understand it because
he's a wonderful dude.
Yeah, it's tough. Sometimes, like I've read multiple of Michael's books, and even some of the stuff that I know he's done charitably and things like that. And some of the things people won't. It's like people don't go the extra mile to figure out those things. And it's like, but even me knowing those little things, it's like I never will know him the way that you know him, obviously.
Right.
And it's crazy when you hear people say all these things out in the media and stuff like that about somebody. So it's crazy, but it is awesome to see that the game ties so many people together in this way. And in what ways does it even because is there also within the NBA family, like with your son and then extending to Michael and so on, is there some way of an NBA like paternalhood, like when it comes to the parents of NBA players? Are you all also close-knit as well?
Yeah, you know what? That's a good question. We the dads and the moms, we have our own group. So there's the mothers of the NBA, and then we call ourselves the professional fathers and men of professional basketball. We have an organization of all dads. A lot of the guys' kids are retired, but they still in the organization. We go out and both groups go out and do charity work. So we try to go to cities. We go to cities, and sometimes we do events together to do charity work. We did some big stuff in Houston. We did some stuff in St. Louis. We did a lot of stuff before the COVID came about.
Yeah.
And so we as fathers and moms, we bond too because they're our kids, and we just want the best. But we also want to give back to our community. So we do, for sure. We do stuff like that. Chris Paul dad is our president for the fathers and men of professional basketball. He's a great leader, just like his son. His son got that from his dad. He's a great leader, man.
Were you rooting for him yesterday?
Always. He was one scholarship away from going to University of North Carolina and playing with Marvin that year. That Marvin.
Oh man, that would have been crazy.
Yeah, that'd have been nice. That'd have been nice.
Because Chris Paul was a dog in college.
He's a beast, man. Yeah.
Sheesh, man. That's wild. Yeah. That's so crazy. So then when it comes to even you guys doing the charity work you guys do as the NBA parents and so on, when it came to COVID, how much of the impact did COVID affect all the things that you all were doing? And then now bouncing back, since things are opening up a lot more, how is it now progressing with those events and those charities and stuff that you guys are doing?
So with our fathers and men, what happened was we all lived in different cities. So when COVID happened, we couldn't get out as a group and do a lot of stuff. So what we would focus on, we'd get on the phone every Tuesday and we talk about what's going on in each person's community and how we can contribute. So like we did a deal with they didn't have no water down in Texas. We just did a deal. We made sure that there was we spent about $5,000 making sure they can get all the water they need.
Wow.
We had a guy down in a dad down in Texas. He took care of it. Rashid dad took care of it and stuff. So
that's awesome.
We try to stay in touch. We like I said, we get on the phone every Tuesday and talk. And we try to stay in touch. If we can get out there, like Mr. Chris Paul dad, he does a lot of traveling. So if he can get to an event where one of us is doing something, he makes sure he's always there when he can get to it. And so we try to support each other that way.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So if you had to say right now, because now that your son's not currently involved in the NBA right now in terms of playing, who are your favorite players? If you can give me 3 favorite players, who are your favorite players right now playing?
Right now?
Yeah.
Booker for Phoenix.
Yeah, he's nasty.
John Morant and Chris Paul.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why those 3?
I love the energy of these young kids. I watched Booker for a long time. I remember him when he was in college, and I fell in love with him. I watched John Morant when he was in college.
Yeah.
And those guys are the new generation of the Chris Paul. And I love Chris Paul's leadership. If you take a look at every team Chris Paul has gone to, they was failing, and when he got there, he by himself changed the culture and the believability to be successful. So, and that's a natural born leader. So you can't knock that.
That's true. It's crazy because I'm a Laker fan too, man. And let me tell you,
that hurt last night.
Oh, the pain, the pain. Oh man.
Yeah, I know that hurt last night.
Oh
Oh,
man. And the worst part is I'm on the East Coast, right? So I was like, man,
yeah,
if they're gonna get us out the way, just get us out the way early. And
yeah,
then
yeah,
they started giving me hope. And I was like, okay, wait, hold a minute. I gotta wait. I gotta wait around. I gotta sit here and wait for it to see how it's gonna end out. And then they
yeah,
just beat us anyway. And I was like, man, it's 2
yeah,
a.m. I'm hurt. I got Charles, Shaq, and Kenny just roasting the team.
yeah, yeah. And I felt sorry for LeBron. He looked like he was just exhausted, man.
Yeah.
You get older, things change a lot. You can't carry that weight like you used to when you're in your 20s.
Yeah.
No.
And it's crazy because when I'm listening to when you see the different fan bases, different people saying why isn't he just turned into like the Cleveland LeBron or the 2018 LeBron? I'm like, man, look, that was when he was 34, 33 years old, and even
Yeah.
the two different rosters, the rosters are so different when you look at the
Yes.
even though it's sometimes I think narratives make it so that people don't really read into fully the roster construction and stuff like that. But seeing the amount of spacing LeBron had back in 2018, when he was doing the stuff to Toronto and when
Right.
they went up against Golden State in the finals, there was so much more spacing
Right.
than even
Right.
yesterday. It was like yesterday I'm watching him try to post up, and it's like the next guy is one pass away from a double team, and he's right there every single time. I was like, man, this just looks like it's so tough for him.
Yeah. And plus, I mean, you got to realize he had shooters. When the spacing was good, he would
Yeah.
create havoc by attacking the basket. And if you double team him, he gonna pass it. He's a great passer. And then you got guys who can knock down shots. But lately, these guys just and the Lakers just haven't been consistent about who's going to take the what shot and
Yeah.
hit it. So
Yeah, it's tough. Do you think that team runs it back next year, the Lakers?
they'll be back. Yeah, I think they'll be back. I think the key. I think y'all need a third scorer. Um,
Yeah,
Anthony Davis, you got to have another consistent veteran. Anthony Davis, he's been injured prone lately, so
yeah,
you got to have a guy when he's not in the picture that can still help LeBron carry that load. So
yeah,
they need one more veteran scorer, and I think they'll be fine. If they'd have had
yeah,
that, if they'd have had that in the playoffs, they'd have been all right.
yeah.
They'd gave Phoenix a run.
It was glaring, like just needing that one other guy
One
to
guy.
contribute
Yeah,
20 points consistently.
that's right.
Yeah, it was pretty obvious. So then who do you think goes on the finals run this year?
I think it's gonna come down. My belief is gonna be Denver and it's gonna be the Nets. That's what I think.
Mm,
Denver and the Nets.
yeah.
Yeah, the Denver just tough, man. Good gracious.
Jokic.
And they don't even have their best player.
They,
But they got
man,
guys stepping up every different guys stepping up every night.
yeah, I
So
know.
yeah,
That
yeah,
man Jokic is a bad dude.
he is.
Jokic is crazy.
Yeah, he's unique, man. He's
Yeah.
unique.
The passes I seen him throw, like the other day when they were playing Portland, and I believe he had Michael Porter Jr. in the corner, and Robert Covington is playing in that corner. He's playing on him, and Jokic is attracting a double team, and he whips this pass, like just hooks it.
Hooks
And
it,
I'm,
yeah.
I'm like, what kind of big man
Yeah.
passes like this? Like, I mean, when guys like Bill Walton, Sabonis, those kind of guys are the ones that I've seen like being able to pass like that. I've seen Pau Gasol be able to make some really good
Yeah.
passes, especially when he was playing with Kobe. But the passes this guy Jokic throws, I'm just like, my
These
gosh.
these new Europeans have a very high basketball IQ. Luka Doncic, and you could tell they've been playing since they were young
Yeah.
because because it looks natural, like it's just
Yep.
instinctive for them to do. So
Yeah.
you can tell, which is good. It helps the game for us. It's
Yeah.
nice to see them Europeans come over and able to contribute to the league.
I was curious, where do you think basketball is going? Because I do think that we've incorporated a lot of the European style into our game in the US.
Mhm.
And where do you think the game is going now, or where do you think it is as of today?
I think we're gonna eventually be, if the NBA continues to grow like it's growing and getting out Europeans and stuff. I think it's gonna be a global NBA. I think it wouldn't surprise me in the future if you have like an American world champion and then you have another European world champion and they
Mm,
collide and they play like a world championship game. I can
yeah.
see the NBA pulling something like that off
Oh wow.
and
That'd be
giving both.
awesome.
Yeah, because everybody give you give everybody, the Europeans and the Americans, a chance to really compete against each other. So
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
why I can see that in the future.
Yeah. Do you think that the young kids of today, because I always remember Kobe saying this a while ago, and he made a comment about how kids today are skipping basics. and they're skipping the steps of the fundamentals of the game. And that was one thing he gave credence to European players. He said European players, and the guy he used as an example at the time was Manu Ginobili. He said Manu Ginobili's game is built up so fundamentally, and you can see it in how Manu plays. But he says a lot of the players today, especially the young players, they're trying to skip steps and just kind of cut corners to become these players. Where do you think the young players are today in terms of how European play has affected them as well?
I think what Kobe said was correct, because that's one of the issues I have with watching the game today. Even college, if you look at college now, the scoring has gone down because these kids can't shoot.
Yeah,
they don't spend enough. They think they go out there and play one-on-one or play some open rat ball game. They're playing and they're working out.
Yeah.
But I've always been a big believer in order to be a professional, you should be able to master the fundamentals. Because if you don't have passing down, defense down, and the ability to shoot the ball the right way, because what happens is these kids are so talented when they're coached by AAU coaches that they're afraid to mess with them and teach them stuff because they might lose them.
Yeah.
They might leave their AAU team and go to another AAU team because they'll let me do what I want to do over here where you won't. So I think that's why a lot of coaches are afraid to dig in and say, hey, no, this ain't the way to do it. Yeah. So they're going to have to eventually go back to that, or else the game is not going to get to the level where it's at.
You know, I've always felt funny about, it's like, I don't want to blame Steph for this. I'm not even trying to hope this doesn't come off this way, but I do think Steph has changed basketball without a doubt.
Oh, yeah.
And I think in ways he's shown us just how you can, our offensive capabilities, because now you have big shooting threes, you have, everybody's shooting threes now. But the problem, I think, with what Steph did to basketball is that now kids are starting to try to learn how to shoot threes before shooting layups. So do you think the impact, it's like, I don't want to make it sound like it's a negative, but do you think that the 3-point revolution is good for the younger generation coming in terms of everybody kind of trying to learn how to shoot threes? And do you think that, because I think you're seeing it more from the ground up, where are you seeing less well-rounded players now at the younger levels because they're not focusing on starting inside, going out?
Correct. That's become a problem even in the AAU circuits. Instead, it used to be everybody wanted to get the dunk, but it was still 2 points. So now everybody's saying, okay, I'll let you have 2, but I'm gonna come down here and shoot a 3. So in essence, I'm not gonna play D on you. I don't care if you score, but I'm gonna come back and outscore you. And so it changes the game a whole lot. So kids, and you're correct. The basic game starts inside out. I always used to tell Marvin when he was having trouble shooting and stuff, I say, hey man, get something going to the basket a couple of times to get yourself going before you step up out there for the 3-point line. Because once you do that and then you get to the line a couple of times, you start building some momentum, and then you'll get comfortable out there at the 3-point line. But no kid should never build their whole career on the 3-point line, because that's the worst shot in the game. And people don't tell the kids that. That's the worst shot in the game.
And it's a problem because there's so many times I think I've even seen in the NBA where you see guys stop. It's like a 3-on-2 fast break, and dudes are stopping short at the 3-point line and pulling up. And then sometimes they hit it, sometimes they don't. But then in those times that they don't hit it, you're sitting there, you're like, it was an off-balance 3-on-2. Like, how are we not getting a bucket? Or even if it's a 2-on-1, how is that bucket not being converted, or free throws not being converted at this? And I've seen it sometimes when I've watched high school ball, and I'll watch some of the games and I just see guys stop short and pull up from 3. And the first place I look at the sideline. I'm just like, let me see what the coach's reaction is. Because if the coach's reaction is like, if he's spazzing out, I know that kid's not supposed to do that. If the coach is just, then the kid has the green light. So, so I always look for those things.
You see a lot of it. Like, I used to go down to high school games, watch these kids. I can tell you a lot about a kid by how he warms up, regardless before he even play. If I sit and watch you long enough and warm up, I can tell what kind of player you really are. You'll see guys out there standing out there because they see the NBA guys with headphones on. They out there shooting around with the headphones and stuff. Like, man, where do you get that from?
Yeah,
that's because somebody else does that. They earned that right to do that.
Yeah,
you haven't earned anything, but yet you think you're supposed to, everything they do, you're supposed to emulate. There's certain things it's okay to emulate, but then there's certain things you got to have some basketball IQ and say, no, I'm gonna start the basics and get good at the basics. That'll make me a pro. Yeah, that's what make pros are basic. It's not them standing out there. You know how many threes Steph Curry probably shot and missed? But
Yeah.
nobody talks about that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they talk about the ones that go in.
Yeah. It's all about the end result. Everybody wants the end result without the
Yes,
work.
that's right.
It's the
Yeah,
truest thing. So then
yeah.
I do want for even people to know where even because we touched on some of your background and how you got to where you are today, but one of the key sayings I always hear and I always know about in my life that I go by is that you never can value the success without the struggle.
Right.
And if you never have struggle in your life, you'll never be able to truly appreciate the success you have. So, in what ways do you feel like the struggles you endured early in your life led you to be able to now become an author, to lead your son into the NBA, and to accomplish a lot of the things you have in your life?
That's a good question. One of the things my struggles I had was with my parents. I didn't. I mean, I love my parents, and I'm not trying to talk bad about them, but I learned that there's a way to parent,
Mm.
and the way they was doing it, and the way I chose to do it is two different things. And I knew that once, if I ever had a kid, it wasn't gonna be the way my parents raised me. That was
Yeah.
so the struggle to watch them go through alcoholism and fight and be unhappy with themselves and unhappy with each other. I just made sure that I wasn't that person. And so I've always strived to be successful. I always had it in the back of my mind, no matter where I came from or what I was doing, I wasn't gonna never stay in that small town. The town was small in Wallace. I was never gonna stay there because I knew God had something bigger planned for me. And I just every day I made it my mission in my mind to keep moving forward to doing that. And then I think being in the military helped me because it taught me discipline.
Mm.
It gave me courage not to be afraid. It gave me the idea that you can accomplish anything after going through the boot camp that I went through. So back when we was going to boot camp, it was a whole lot longer. It was like 3 months every day
Oh,
of them.
wow.
Yeah, 3 months of brutality. And
Wow.
so and then you got through that, then I knew I could achieve almost anything.
Yeah.
And so that helped me write the book. And then as I went through life, I struggled with jobs. I didn't have I bounced from job to job when I got out the military. But I knew that I had to take care of my son, so I did whatever I had to do that. And so that by itself was a personal struggle for me, and I didn't want that for my kid. And so
Yeah.
then I had issues with the police department. They accused me of something I didn't do, and then they locked me up, and then I ended up suing them, and then they paid me. And so that too was an issue. It taught me to teach my son just be careful of what you do and be careful of police.
Yeah.
So, but all those things for me build me to make me stronger,
Yeah.
to this day. So as an individual on the inside, my character, I'm stronger. So, and I appreciate those struggles because you
Yeah.
can't have success without struggles. Anybody that gets success without struggles, it ain't gonna last long.
Yeah.
Not gonna last long.
I think I can't remember where I saw the statistic, but the statistic essentially said the amount of people that win the lottery and lose it because the fact that you didn't work to make the money, you don't know how to keep the money.
That's
Like
right.
if your
That's right.
mind isn't is your mind if your mind isn't calibrated to be able to manage hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, you're not going
Yeah.
to be able to manage those or sustain that amount of money.
Right.
So whenever
Yeah.
I heard that, that's always like it's like the shortcut way to getting there, but then there's no shortcuts.
No shortcuts. No,
Yeah,
man. There's no shortcuts.
there's
No
no
sir.
shortcuts at all. So
No.
then what events then inspired you that made you want to write the book?
I was sitting. I was my bishop. He passed away in Seattle, the town that Marvin grew up in. He knew me since when I got out in the military. I used to go to his church all the time, and he've always followed me and watched out for me. He was like my Martin Luther King in
Mm,
Bremerton, my son's hometown.
yeah,
And so when I had those events with the police, he was the first one to come step up and say, "Hey, that wasn't right. Y'all need to fix it."
yeah.
And then he followed Marvin as he watched Marvin grow. He watched me through my basketball career because I played college in that same town. And so he
Okay.
watched me and followed me, and I always went to his church. So he told me one day, he said, "Hey man, why don't you write a book? Because you might have an interesting story to tell." And I was like, "Nah, I don't think I got much to tell nobody. My story is no different than anybody else." But then I was sitting on my back porch one day looking around at my life, and I was thinking about my mom and dad and where I come from and where I'm at now. And I felt that the need to write the book for two reasons. One, to give thanks to God for what he's given me. And then two, to hope that somebody who reads it, who's in the same situation, can know that it's gonna get better.
Yep.
But some people sometimes we feel we stuck, and
Yeah.
that's life, but it really ain't life.
Yeah.
So those are really the two reasons I want to help somebody and then give God thanks for what he done for me.
That's awesome. So then What would you say then for those who are interested in picking up your book? What are the big key things they can pull away from it that can help them improve their life if they're going through struggles and so on? What are some key things from your book that you think that will help someone else?
I think the one thing is never give up. I
Mm,
never gave up, no matter what. I love basketball. My dream was to be an NBA player, but even though it didn't take me down that road, I still had that dream of connection with basketball. So I never gave up. And then I think the other thing would be always believe in yourself and know that that you're not always stuck.
yeah.
I think we grow up in society and our environment. Some people say our environments make us who we are, but I disagree with that. I think your environment can shape you and mold you, but you can get out that environment and become even a better person.
Yeah.
So I think never give up. If you got a dream, follow your dream and stick with it, no matter what kind of obstacles you got to go through.
I love one thing you touched on was the fact that you touched on what your bounce back was like after you realized you weren't going to make it to the NBA.
Right.
Because I think so many people have that initial dream and that
Yeah.
thing they want so bad. Like, I want to get to the NBA. I want to get to the NFL. I want to be this. I want to be that. And
Right.
when it doesn't happen, it's like they take that initial punch, and in some ways, it's like the rest of their life is shaped from it for the negative.
That's right.
And in what ways would you give advice to those people to be able to bounce back and realize, hey, even though this dream didn't happen, that doesn't mean that maybe you can't have a secondary dream or something else come along that might be even better suited than making the NBA or the NFL or something of that sort?
I always tell my son when he was having moments of struggle. I always told him that sometimes God will tear you down to rebuild you for something better.
Mm,
But sometimes we think that, like you said, I want to be a doctor, but then I don't pass the exam.
yep.
So, okay, that don't mean you can't go out and be a nurse or be a part of the doctor's system. You could be,
Yeah.
be a emergency rescue person. You could
Yep.
still have that part of that life be a part of your life. And so when you fall down, just get back up and look at other avenues. You could still, like I said, you could still be like you want to be a lawyer, you don't pass the bar, just go be a clerk until you learn
Yeah.
how to pass the bar. Don't quit. And
Yeah.
don't feel like because you got knocked down, that knocked down part might be the part that's God trying to build you to be stronger. So when your time comes, that you're ready and you're prepared.
Yeah.
And I think so many times people don't see that. You
That's
know,
true.
they see the here and the now. Oh, I can't. I ain't gonna be what I want to be. No, you can be anything you want to be.
Yeah.
You just got to be persistent, stick with it.
I think the biggest testament to that is actually Dwayne the Rock Johnson, because he has this very viral Instagram video that he did one day that he posted, and it pretty much is he's talking about his life up until this point now where he's the huge movie star, and he
Mm-hmm.
talks about how, I went to the University of Miami. My dream was to play in the NFL. I was supposed to be an NFL player. I graduate, I go to the trials, I get cut, and I think my life is over. I think
Yep.
everything is just going down to the pits. And then I'm at a point where I have like only $7 in my wallet, and I don't know where I'm going from that point.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I mean, we all know the Rock story at this point when, him becoming WWE, the whole nine.
Yeah.
But it's so crazy when you can watch someone's life be shaped from the outside, because now he even has his $7 Productions that's named after the fact that he only has seven
Yeah.
bucks. And
Yeah.
it's so crazy just when
Yeah.
you see the whole picture painted. It's wild. It's so
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It sure
Yeah.
is.
I
Yeah.
think the toughest thing is toughest for, I noticed, especially people in the age range from like 20 to around 40 years old. I think
Mhm.
that's the people sometimes it's toughest for, because especially in the augmented and the advent of social media now, you see
Right.
it's so many, you always see the end result for some people. You see all these successful people on social
Right.
media, you're
Right.
seeing all the posts and stuff like that, and you're always comparing yourself, wondering, well, why aren't I there?
Right.
And I think it does create mental unwellness for a lot of people in their
Mm-hmm.
20s and 40s. And I don't know, I think it's just so important that people realize, hey, everybody has their own path. And even if
Right.
you feel like your first thing might not have worked out the way you wanted, there always is a bigger plan for it.
Yeah, and I always another one. I'm glad you brought the mental health part because I think it's mental health month this month.
Hmm.
I think the thing people need to also do is continue to read and educate yourself on positive stuff.
Yeah.
And that's something we gotten away from. You gotta, if you got a dream, the more positive stuff you feed in your mind, the more positive things you're gonna attract. And I
Yeah.
think people don't understand that. And so
Yep.
that positive stuff give you strength to struggle through those bad times, I believe.
Yeah.
Because when I read Think and Grow Rich and Think Big, anything that bothered me, I think about those quotes and I just move on. I just
Yeah.
keep living, you know what I mean? I just move on because they gave me the foundation to move on, the strength.
Yeah, for sure. So then how did you translate a lot of what you had and what you went through to your son as you were coaching him up and bringing him up to eventually for him to go to the NBA?
Well, a lot of the stuff he's seen me go through, like trying out for the CBA, which is now the G League.
Mm,
He's seen all those struggles, and and the thing with him was it wasn't hard because like I said, he listened. So sometimes you have kids that you tell them something they think they know more than you do. But I've never, even he's 34 now, I never even had that problem with him. We was having dinner
wow.
last night, and he was telling my girlfriend, said, "Man, he said I may make my own decisions at 34, but the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call my dad and find out what he thinks."
Mm,
So you gotta be able, if somebody's been there and done that before you have, take that advice.
yeah.
Take that advice because they're giving it to you for a reason. They're not giving it to you to harm you, for the most part.
Yeah. Then what would you give? Because I think a lot of parents would be envious of you. I'm not even gonna lie. I think a lot of parents would be envious of you
Yeah.
because I think a lot of parents do struggle to reach their kids in that manner because so many people it's like, oh, it's just my dad talking again, it's my mom just going on again.
Right.
And what advice would you give to parents in that regard to maybe be able to navigate that relationship with their kids better where they don't just feel like you're just the out of touch parent, but you're coming from a place that, hey, I've walked this path before, I know what it's like, and I'm trying to help you avoid the same landmines that I might have stepped on.
I think spending the one thing that I feel like I had success with. What Marvin has two other brothers, and they all, as far as I'm concerned, all three of my kids. I think the success I had with all those guys, I spent quality one-on-one time with each one of them.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Sometimes if the dad is having trouble, because sometimes the kid feels bombarded, the mom's getting at him, the dad's getting at him, and he
yeah,
don't know which way to turn. So if
yeah,
he's a guy, if he's a young man and he's trying to be a basketball player or a rapper or something, then I think it's the dad's job to take him off somewhere. Y'all have private, go have lunch, make it a day. Every Sunday y'all go together and have lunch and make plans. That's what me and mom used to do when he was little. We go to Taco Bell, get about 20 tacos every Sunday after church, and we sit down and we talk and we make plans. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So yeah, if you want to be a rapper, that's great. But let me see what I can do to help you. But listen, I'm older than you. I've lived life longer than you. I've made some mistakes, and those are the things I don't want you to do. And
yeah,
when you lay it out to them like that, I think they'll understand. But I
yeah,
think sometimes these parents just bombard these kids, and then again, these kids want immediate gratification because of social media is so hot right now, and
yeah,
this is the age of the computer. So what they see they see the finished product, like you said, and they think that's what
yeah,
they're supposed to have right away.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
tough. Then what advice would you give to the parents that are coaching their kids now, or they're watching their kids grow up in sports that want their kids to be the next superstar, like how to navigate those waters without trying to push too hard? Because sometimes it's like, for example, like even with yourself, like sometimes it can be one of those things where a lot of people you hear the scenarios where it's like people try to push their kids in the way that they went instead of maybe
Correct.
letting them naturally be interested in it. Like Marvin asked you, hey, I
Right.
want you to coach me, as opposed to you kind of force it on them. What's the navigation that you would advise for parents on that journey?
I first of all, I personally, when Marvin was younger and he was getting real good, probably when he was like 12 or 13, I had the coaches on his staff come up and ask me to be on their coaching staff. I'm not a big believer in a parent coaching the kid because
Mm,
for several reasons. One, it crosses the line of you and my dad, and then you don't play well, then I got to go home and hear this every day because
yeah,
you know what I mean. So
yeah,
as a father, I wouldn't recommend no dad coach his kid other than individually. Get him in the gym and y'all quiet by yourself, and that also with y'all doing it that way, it builds a
true,
better bond between the two
true,
of you guys. So,
yeah,
but I'm not a big fan of parents coaching their kids because it just distorts the whole father son, mother daughter, or dad
dynamic,
daughter dynamic, and
yeah,
then they don't know who to look at you as when you go home. You may screw up in the game, and then you got to go home and hear that. And so
yeah,
eventually, as a player, that person gonna shut down on you because they hear it all day and night. You know what I mean? So
that's so
I,
interesting.
I would I would stay away from my recommendation to parents is stay away from coaching your kid unless you're doing it individually. Let the coach
Mm,
and let other people coach your kids. You know what I mean? That's
wow.
that's my big advice.
That's interesting that you say that because that's something I've always debated about. One thing that, because even when my little brother was playing AAU, I was like, man, how involved do I get trying to help him do certain things or tell him certain things he maybe is not doing right. But it's like at some point you got to separate the game from, the house or the personal
House.
life,
That's right. Yeah.
and I feel like for kids especially, it feels like there's no reprieve from
No, it
it.
ain't. It ain't. That's when the problem comes in. That's when the kids shut down on you because
Yeah.
it's like, dog, you just my dad.
Yeah.
And that's where the problem comes in with your relationship, and it can affect it even if when the kid. I talked to a guy that said his kid won't. He's a baseball coach. His kid don't listen to him, and it goes over to in the household where he don't listen to him in the household now. I just think be a parent, be a dad, or be a mother, and then if your daughter wants to work out, then you and her go one-on-one, and that builds quality time together, and it also builds a bond with you guys. But that coaching as a coaching my son, no, I would
Stay
never
away from it.
No,
I feel that.
That's not the brightest idea in the world.
I feel
No,
it.
no.
I'm taking the notes down from
Yeah,
from when I have
that's
my own. I'm taking the notes
yeah,
down.
yeah. But
That's
you'll have more fun, I think, coaching them individually away from everybody than you would coaching them in a group setting anyway. Because some
yeah.
people who don't learn well in a group setting. In
Yeah.
my years of coaching, I've had kids who in college, you put them in a group setting, they can't learn nothing, but you take a one-on-one, they
They learn.
light up like a light bulb.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the problem, even when parents coach kids, is that you always have the thing of the favoritism.
Yes.
You can't
Yes.
get away from it. It's
Nope.
always gonna be a topic, a background narrative. And
Yeah.
even if you're trying your best to be
Be
as
fair.
objective or fair as
Yeah.
possible, it's just always gonna be there.
Absolutely. You got that right. My
Yeah.
son, your son could be the best player legitimately.
Hmm.
And you start him at quarterback. Now everybody in the community, you got your son starting at quarterback. Well, my son just as good as he is. You know what I
Yup.
mean?
Yup. 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 It's unwarranted problems, man.
That's right. Exactly right. Exactly right.
It's unnecessary issues. The funny thing is
Yeah.
that quick story. That's a quick random story, but I actually grew up in a situation where one of my local high schools. So the dad was already the coach of the high school football team, and they were such a good team and everything like that. And the son eventually he got old enough because his son was in middle school. His son eventually came to the high school where his dad was coaching at, and his son wanted to play for the team, and his dad already knew the conflict of interest, and
Yes.
his dad was just like, well, I'm not going to make my son change schools. So the dad actually transferred from being a coach at that high school to a different school, and I
That's a
was
smart
like,
dad.
man,
Smart
that's
dad.
yeah, like
Smart dude.
it's so crazy. It was wild, man. I was like, dude, that's talk about putting your kids first.
Yeah, that's a smart man there. Yeah.
Yeah, it was real, man. So then I am curious in regards to just overall success for people. I know you have your own acronym that you made REACH. And how did you come up with that? First things first, how did you develop that and come up with that?
Well, I think people you have to be responsible for one.
Hmm.
You got to be responsible when you say I want to be a doctor. You got to go to the library, start reading on doctors' books. You can't say I'm gonna want to be a doctor and then don't do the work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or if you tell a mentor that who's gonna help you be a doctor, then I'm gonna show up at XYZ time, but you don't show up.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I use Reach for. Then I think you got to have a great attitude. You got to be disciplined. You got to be willing to accept whatever comes when it comes to punishment, discipline, and all that. So those
Yeah.
are the key things to as far as I'm concerned
And
about.
let me read out each acronym for everybody so you guys know fully what REACH means. So the R is for role model, to take the lead and never be a follower. The
Yeah.
E is for endure, commit to your goal and prepare for success. A is to accomplish, always keep your word and accomplish your goals. Character, or the C is for character, having good character is everything. And the H is for hard work and that it always pays off.
Yes. Yep. That's
Yeah.
on Reach. Yep.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
when I saw that, I was like, man, I feel like if somebody really embeds, because so many people, you hear that, oh, my goal is to do this, or I want to become this and that. And sometimes, when people don't, their first dream doesn't happen, sometimes you ask people, well, what was your plan to get there? Or what was your method of trying to get there? And just like you said, it could have been being a doctor or whatever the case might be. And I asked someone, well, what went wrong? And then they tell me, and I'm like, well, it just sounds like you didn't commit to it. in
Right.
parts. Sometimes
Right.
that's what it sounds like. It didn't sound like that was the number one priority. It sounded like
Right.
you wanted to be this, but
Yeah.
this thing came in the way, and this thing
Yeah.
kind of became a little inconvenient, and then it didn't happen, and you were like,
Yeah.
well, I guess it wasn't for me. And it's like, wait, that's not what I heard.
That's not, right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the toughest part, I think, when it comes to that. That's why I generally like your book, and I feel like what you say your book stands for and how it can help people in that regard, and help them realize that, hey, you can start from the bottom, but there is a way to reach up to the top of where you're trying to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
It's all about accountability, man. You gotta be accountable. You
yeah,
gotta be accountable.
yeah. That's the number one thing on any list is accountability.
Accountability, man.
Now
Yeah.
I got one more question I want to ask you too. When
Okay.
you and Mike played one on one, who would win?
Oh, he would definitely win. He had like a he had like a 45-inch vertical. And his brother Larry, I tell you what, people don't know, but his brother Larry, the stuff you see Michael Jordan doing, his brother Larry, who's older, was doing that before Mike even got started playing basketball. He could
Oh,
do a
really?
180 pair of jeans. I've seen him come to
Wow.
the gym and just hang out, watch us play. And Larry I asked him to dunk. He'd do a 360 dunk in a pair of jeans, loose sleeve with loose
What?
sneakers on. Oh, he could get up, man. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, him and Mike probably both vertical, probably about 44 somewhere around there. He can touch the top of the square, and
Wait,
I think he's 5'7",
pause.
5'9", somewhere around there.
What?
Yeah, really, seriously, he could touch the top. He could touch that square.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh, that's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. It was ridiculous how he could jump, man.
So they're
He's
just like
little.
literally freak athletes.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, and just imagine the stuff you see Mike do. His brother could do every one of them dunks at 5'9".
Oh my gosh, what the heck?
That's ridiculous. His brother was a basketball junkie. If
Really?
he oh yeah, if he could find a basketball game, he gonna find it. That's he gonna find it. Yeah, man. He'd be off and on. I've had some conversations with him. I found out he was off at some hole in the wall spot when I like, you went over there to play. He's like, yeah, why not? I like, man, no, I would go over there and play. I'm like, he found it. He went over there.
Oh man, you like, yo, I love the game, but hey, I can't.
Yeah, I ain't going over there. Like, you over there? Yeah, man. I went over there. I scored 50 on him. I said, I bet you did.
That's great. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't
Yeah.
imagine what the runs must have been like when with those guys, because it
It was
must have just gotten
hardcore, man.
so competitive.
Yeah, it
Uh,
was hardcore.
oh
Yeah, it was
gosh.
hardcore.
Are they when you played them, were they the type of competitors where it's like when you beat them, it was like somebody else is supposed to have next, but they're like, nah, I'm back on. I'm not.
No, no, no. See, they was quite competitive. They was real humble.
Mm.
They lost a game, they would lose the game, but then again, people would pick them up. So,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
next
yeah.
team would say, I'm gonna pick my four and wait and see what happened over here. And then, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? If Larry or Mike lose, I'm grabbing them.
Yeah.
See? So,
Oh man,
yeah,
that's crazy.
yeah. And it was tough because you only got one shot at it. You would get
Yeah.
on the court, and if you lost, you man, if it'd be later in the evening, it might start at 3 o'clock, by 7 or 8 o'clock. You still ain't back on the court. So you just pack your stuff up and go
Wow.
home. It'd be that many people there. Yeah,
Sheesh. That's
yeah,
crazy, man. Those are the runs, right? But those are the best
yeah,
runs, though. Those
yeah,
are the ones
yeah,
right there. When you
yeah,
play from like the sun came up when you started, and then like sun
yeah,
come down, and it's like we're still on.
yeah. We had made the city. We played so much that we made the city put a light in the park. And so
Mm,
somebody would always, we had to bring quarters. Everybody bring quarters because they give you 30 minutes of light. So somebody
yeah.
was always standing by the light to keep the lights on, put the quarters in until it was your turn to play. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so good, man. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I can't even imagine. That's just so
Yeah.
good. How many times would as you all got older, and when Mike, did you guys keep playing when Mike got in the league still?
Yeah, we did. We did. I was
Wow.
off in the Navy, and then I would
Mhm.
come home, and then we get together like in the old times and play and ballot it out. And
Yeah.
then Larry would pop in every now and then. He used to come out a lot. Then he stopped coming down as much. And so then I think as I gotten old and gotten away, and Mike left, and then Larry started coming down less. Then Kenny went off to play in the league, so it was a little
Yeah.
bit different. But whenever we got the chance, we came back and played.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait. So Kenny Smith?
Kenny Gaddison.
Oh, Kenny Gaddison. Okay,
Yeah,
got you,
Kenny
got you.
Gaddison
Okay.
played for Charlotte and the Phoenix Suns. He was in the league about 16 years, and he coached for about 10, 11 years.
Oh, okay, got you, got you. Because
Yeah,
I knew Kenny Smith went to UNC as well. So that's
yeah,
what I thought you were talking about
yeah,
him at first. Oh, okay,
yeah,
gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha.
But Kenny
That's
Gaddison
awesome.
was recruited at the same time as Michael Jordan by Dean Smith.
Oh,
And
really?
they had James Worthy in Kenny Gaddison's spot. And so Dean Smith told him, "You probably won't
Mhm.
start right away because I got James Worthy there, but
Yeah,
you can still come." So he decided, "No, I don't want to play behind James Worthy."
yeah.
So he went off to Old Dominion and played. He had a great career there.
Oh, that's my alma
Yeah,
mater right there.
yeah.
That's my ODU, man.
ODU. Yeah,
ODU. I'm proud,
yeah,
Monarch.
yeah, man. Yeah, Kenny Gaddison. He played at ODU. Yeah,
Wow, that's
yeah,
crazy. Man, it just amazes me how the sports and basketball just connects so many people.
yeah. It's a
It's
small
crazy.
world, man. It's
Yeah.
smaller than people think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. If you had a vote, I know we might be a little biased on this one, but if you in 10 years, which sport is more popular, the NBA or the NFL?
Oh, the NFL been losing viewers, so I would stick with basketball.
You think
I'm gonna go
basketball?
basketball. Yeah, the
Okay.
NFL been losing viewers, and the concussion protocol. I think that's
Yeah.
gonna change a lot of stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with basketball. It's a little bit safer.
Yeah.
But I think baseball might be more popular than all both of them.
You really?
Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
diverged from you on that one. I felt like baseball was going down. I get so bored watching
Yeah,
baseball, Marvin. Let me tell you.
but
I
we
get
don't have
so
enough blacks back in baseball. That's what that is.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what that is.
Man, I get so bored watching base. And the funny thing is, my team, because I'm a Lakers fan, Dodgers fan, Rams fan.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
teams, Dodgers won the World Series last year.
yeah,
But
yeah.
Lord knows, tell me to watch a regular season game. Oh gosh, it is out the window. I can't. I get
I
so
love
bored.
watching them, man. I love it. I love my Mets, man. That's my team.
Oh wait, the Mets?
Mets. Yeah, I love the
Oh,
Mets,
my
man.
friend, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. They're like my Dolphins. You just gotta love them,
Oh,
regardless.
the
You know what I
Mets
mean?
and the Dolphins. Wait,
Yeah,
you got 72.
yeah. I
You
got
got
72.
72. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Marvin, I appreciate the time, man. This has been awesome.
Hey, thank you. I really appreciate you having me on here, man. It was
Yeah.
fun. I had a great time.
Yeah, we definitely got to do this again. I'm enjoying myself. You got the stories. We can go back and forth with stories now. I know now. We can. Oh man, the Mets. That's tough. That's tough. Oh gosh, that's tough, man. I feel it. All right, man. Well, I definitely
All
appreciate you,
right.
brother.
Hey, you're welcome. Thank you again, man.
All
Thank
right.
you.